Morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hope everyone is well. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Shalom ben Shmuel David HaKohen, and we wish long life to Susan. Susan, wish you and all the family long life. So, in addition to that, today's learning is dedicated in memory of Ami Bas Aryeh, Paul Casimir, Shaul ben Shlomo, Yirmiyahu ben Moshe Eliezer, Shlomo Yechia ben Moshe Eliezer, Ben Zion ben Yitzchak, Ari ben Shimon, Bas Faivel, Avram Mordechai ben Moshe Katna, Menashe ben Tzvi Zalman, and Raleigh Bas Avram Pinkas. To respective families, long life and only simchas. So, one of the great questions is whether there is free will or whether we are predestined for certain things. We're all familiar with the concept of the Bashet, right? That your soulmate was something that, as the sages, the Talmud tells us, that it was something that was already predetermined from before you were born. 40 days before a child emerges into this world, a heavenly voice proclaims who is going to marry who. So if that's and that idea of predestination, right? In other words, everything's bashed, seems to be something that is reflected in a medrash, okay, on this week's parsha. We mentioned previously, and firstly, let me just say good morning to my wonderful friends. Clarice, lovely to see you. Peter, Deborah, David, looking well. Susan, Carol, and Andy, lovely to see each and every one of you. Hope you and your families are well. This idea we've spoken about before. Let's just recap where we are. So we're up to Parshas Toldos. We're discussing about the seeds of the Jewish people, the future of the Jewish people, the progenitors. So we're dealing with Yitzchak, Isaac, and Rebecca. So in this week's parsha, Rivka has two sons, twins, and Esau and Jacob, Esau and Yaakov. Let me read you a medrash, which is cited by Rashi, one of the great medieval commentators, and it seems at first glance really, really jarring. So the Talmud tells us that the Medrash firstly. The Medrash says that when it says that they struggled, these twins, when they were in her womb, when they hadn't emerged, so they struggled inside her. Says the Medrash, when Rivka passed a place of the study hall of Aver, then Jacob struggled to exit, right? He was drawn to the study hall. And when she passed the place of the house of idol worship, then Esau struggled to exit. In other words, what the Medrash at first glance seems to be saying to us, Peter, good morning, is as follows, that they were predisposed to a particular way of life. In other words, Jacob was drawn to the Torah, to the study hall, to the spirituality, and Esau seems, from the Medrash, to be drawn in the opposite direction. He seems that he's predetermined to be somebody who's an idolater. Now, there is a Medrash which seems to contradict. The Medrash says that the Talmud relates that Rebbe was the descendant of Jacob, right? Rebbe was one of the great sages of the Talmud, and Antoninus was the descendant of Esau. Now, Antoninus was one of the great emperors of Rome, and there was a debate when the evil inclination came into a person. And Rebbe maintained that it enters at the conception, and Antoninus maintained it enters at birth. And there were various sources that were brought. But the point I want to cut to the chase, because this is quite a complicated idea, and to explain as follows. If you look at it, in a way, it's very simple, okay? If we think about it and we actually really think about ourselves, who we really are, and we go through what the introspection, we look at ourselves very, very, very deeply. What do we see? we see that we all we have natural characteristics. Okay, no two people are born in this world with the exact same characteristics, right? Some people are more outgoing, so others are more introvert. Some people are very ambitious, some people are not. Some people are more I don't know, some people are stronger, some people are weaker. They're all different traits, right? So the fact, our understanding is the fact that a person is predisposed, for example, let's say to anger or to being rather overconfident, that doesn't mean, that's not necessarily an evil trait. In other words, no person is born evil. Okay, now this is fundamental. Adolf Hitler did not emerge into this world as a little Adolf Hitler, as a little, well, he was Adolf Hitler, but he certainly didn't emerge with wanting to kill 6 million Jews. Okay, that's not the way he started off life. And you can look in many biographies have been written, and you'll find all about it, all about the fact that this is supported. But what happens is that all of us have a predisposition to certain characteristics. And those characteristics, friends, can be used for good or for evil, for light or for darkness. I'll give you an example. A person may be naturally quite violent. Okay, in other words, they're physical. Some people are very physical, and they need to unleash this physicality. Now, that can be used productively or negatively. Negatively, it could be that this person becomes a hooligan, a criminal, a murderer, or somebody who's just violent or abusive. Or it could be used that they're predisposed to shedding of blood, right? And therefore they would be suitable, says the Talmud, to be a shochet or to be a moil, right? So as somebody else, for example, who may be exceptionally soft and caring, right? So they're not going to be able to be out there and being, having that aggressive tendency or that business tendency to be able to make deals or to run a country. But they would be more suited to using their naturally nursing tendencies to be in the medical profession, in the caring professions, right? So everything that we have can be used for good or for evil. That's the way we were. So therefore, when we speak about Esau and Jacob, right, we speak about two paradigms. Jacob was never going to be a man of the world, okay? Not a real man of the world. He wasn't going to be out there in dealing and wheeling with the world at large. He was more predisposed to being a person that would be more studious, more spiritual, more of an introvert. Esau, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. He was somebody who was very comfortable being out there in the world. So Isaac, what did he see? Because we're told that Isaac knew that his sons were very, very different. He knew that Esau was this hunter, this wild man who would go out into the fields and bring back the hunt. And the idea was that Isaac recognized that his sons were different. He didn't think, he knew they could not be the same. Esau was never going to be a Jacob, and Jacob was never going to be an Esau. But, and here's the big but, what he was hoping for was that Esau would be able, and this is what he was trying to do. Isaac loved Esau because he saw a possibility of channeling that aggression, that outer dimension into spirituality. And that would be an aspect, a dimension in life that Jacob was never going to reach. In other words, there are areas of life, of spiritual growth, of personal growth that we can achieve that no one else can achieve, because no one is like us. Each and every one of you are made unique. with unique characteristics, with unique capabilities. And therefore, it's incumbent upon each and every one of us to find our own unique path and way to accomplishing, to achieving, to being fulfilled, to giving in this world, to living a spiritual life. For some, they may be very into saying psalms, right? Or others may be very into intellectual study and rigor. And others may say, actually, you know what? I'm into social action. I'm going to help Chai and Chana and other institutions. I want to help people, right? He doesn't, and the truth is, both paths Isaac saw as being equally valid and essential, right? We need all the parts of the great tapestry to make the masterpiece, but each one has its own place and its own contribution. And Isaac was disappointed by Esau that at the end of his life he recognized, when Jacob took the blessings, that he had not just been physically blind, but that he'd been blinded in all senses, believing. He really was hoping and looked at rose-tinted glasses through Esau, thinking that the hunting and the physicality was being used or could be used for spiritual purposes to elevate this world, right? Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. But the lesson for us, friends, is quite simple. Each and every one of us can, should, and must utilize our own innate talents that we've been given and blessed with, elevate them, use them productively, constructively, so that we are able, please God, to bring this world to its rightful conclusion. May we see Volazion Goel, may we see the Redeemer come to Zion, and peace in our time. Amen. We're going to conclude with the firstly with the Psalm 23 and then memorial prayer. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He leads me in the righteous path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days. Memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zachawes Nishmais Shalom ben Shmuel David HaKohen Ami Bas Aryeh Paul Kazimir Shol ben Shlomo Yirmiyahu ben Moshe Eliezer Shlomo Yechiel ben Moshe Eliezer ben Tzimon Yitzchak Arab ben Shimon Bas Bible Avram Mordechai ben Moshe Kadna Menashe ben Zvi Zalman Raya Bas Avram Pinko Shel Chol Yolamam Began Eden Tevim Nuchosam Lachem Balarachamim Yasrim B'Seisa Kanofech Chol Yolamim Amen. Long life wishes to Susan and everyone else who are joining us. And now, Refuah Shalema prayer. Misha Berach Avatain Ramins of Yaakov, Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivach Yivarech Rapes Achelim Babu Shanim Mispalim Babu Rambis Mosakash Bokim Alerachim Malehem Malachim Malafosam Nishlach Nem Fushlim Shmam Lacholovim Basoshach Yisrael Refuah San Nefesh Refuah Sagov Hashavak Smakarif Amen. Andy, of course, we wish you well, and I know that you've got a big operation coming up. On behalf of everyone who learns together with you in the group and the whole community, we wish you a speedy and a full recovery. We're here, we're praying, we're thinking of you and cheering you on, and please God, we'll hear good news. In the meantime, everyone, wishing everyone a good day. Keep safe, keep well, look after yourselves. Please God, we'll see you later. We've got at 8:30 this evening our learning program, so hopefully we'll see you there. All the very best.